All right, you guys. So breaking news. I just did my Super Bowl halftime report. So, the Kansas City is down um 3-10 to the 49ers. The 49ers are doing the thing. Like I said, their defense has just been real stingy, like how you constantly take a chick out, on dates, spend hundreds of dollars on her to wine and dine her, and she's still not trying to give up no cat. That's basically what. Nevertheless, let's talk about some other breaking news. So it appears that Jaime Mungia tweets that him and Canelo is close to finalizing a deal that would basically have them face off in May Cinco de Mayo weekend on DAZN pay-per-view. So it looked like that there won't be no Jamal Charlo for Canelo because rumor has it that basically Al Heyman just doesn't have the money to pay Canelo, or he isn't going to pay out of his own pocket to Canelo. So it looked like Canelo is moving on. So Canelo may be out of his deal with the PBC, which at the end of the day, this will give Canelo basically a clear cut excuse not to fight David Benavidez. At the end of the day, I hate to say this, but it's not looking too good for the PBC if basically they can't afford to pay for certain fights, but at the end of the day, um, we all know what time it is. Al Heyman has nobody to blame but himself, basically trying to recreate the system, not wanting to play ball. At the end of the day, devaluing other black fighters that wasn't part of the PBC network. It took way too long to make Crawford versus Spence, and they don't have the money to pay Terrence Crawford. But eventually, Terrence Crawford is going to have to make some decisions too on what he wants to do. Terrence Crawford, to me, I think Terrence Crawford needs to get back in the ring. I mean, it's February. I think Terrence Crawford could just do a tune-up fight with whoever he wants to fight, just for a tune-up fight, just to stay active. At the end of the day, Terrence Crawford will be 37 this year. And, even though Terrence Crawford takes care of himself, you don't want to be Terrence Crawford basically, sitting out another year, because at the end of the day, even though he takes care of himself, you never know when the clock may betray you. So that's just my thing. I think Terrence Crawford needs to get back in the ring, and I'll talk about that in a live stream coming up later, but anyway, with that being said, so um, if Canelo fights Jaime Mungia, I mean, okay, but it just comes across that Canelo is not truthful. And I think it come to a point where you got to stop, what I'm saying, giving Canelo a pass for his antics. Now, first, Canelo said that he wasn't going to fight any Mexicans. Well, Jaime Mungia is as Mexican as you can get. So basically, it appears to me that either Canelo changed his mind or he has no choice. And there's nothing out there for him because basically the PBC can't afford him. And then basically they don't have the Showtime deal no more. So, with that being said, it ain't looking too good. Like I said, once again, for the PBC now, for you super pro black Negroes who thinking that I wanted Al Heyman to fall on his face. No, that's absolutely inequitably false. I just didn't like what was going on and some of the things that the PBC was doing. So now all of a sudden you see now people then turned on Al Heyman and the PBC. And then you had these dudes, trying to question somebody's blackness and stuff if you speak against the PBC, even though they married to everything but a black woman. But so now what? So a lot of questions is going to be asked towards Canelo. A lot of questions going to be asked towards the PBC now. But this came from Jaime Mungia himself, who basically said it looked like a deal is close to being finalized. Now, Jaime fights at, 160. So moving up to 168, and it would be for Canelo's undisputed titles. Shouldn't say title because you have multiple belts. So it would be titles, to be honest with you, because he has multiple belts. But, it is what it is, So the thing is with Canelo, he gets too much of a pass because of his antics. And a lot of times with the media and stuff, people act like they don't want to ask him tough questions. It's a difference between asking somebody a tough question and then being flat out disrespectful. I don't disrespect fighters whatsoever, but at the end of the day, you got to say, "Hey, Canelo, what's going on, man? What happened to make you change your mind when you said that you wasn't going to fight any more Mexicans?" And that came out of Canelo's mouth. And he can't sit up there and say that he was misquoted. He said that on several occasions. Here's the thing, you guys. I told you that the PBC been inflating their numbers. They wasn't what they were reporting. And that's just real talk. Like I said before, if the PBC was doing the numbers they were reporting, they would still have network deals. Canelo versus Charlo did not do good. It did not do good at all. It didn't sell good, and it didn't do good numbers on pay-per-view. That was when they got when they got the final results and they tallied up the pay-per-view buys. Showtime was like, yeah, hey, nah, we're good. We're good. You got to go. We're done. We're not even going to, you know what I'm saying? We're not even going to let Canelo finish his 3-fight deal on Showtime. You guys can go. So now Canelo doesn't have a network deal anymore. So he's basically headed back to the zone. And the funny thing is, to a certain degree, well, he pretty much vowed to never do Oscar. I don't know what happened with him and Oscar De La Hoya. Well, he has to do business with Oscar because Jaime Mungia has a co-promotional deal with Golden Boy. I think Jaime Mungia has another promoter, but Golden Boy like helps co-promote Jaime Mungia. So yeah, look like you're gonna have to do business with Oscar again. You know, Canelo, you swore that you would never deal with Oscar, so now you headed right back. How do I see this fight? In all likelihood, Canelo will do what he always does. He will just outbox and outpoint Jaime Mungia to a unanimous decision, because we all know that Jaime Mungia is going to be down at least 4 rounds when the bell rings anyway. So, with that being said, unless Jaime Mungia, knocks Canelo down at least 2 or 3 times or he stops Canelo, then I just don't see him winning a decision. Unless he just does exactly what Bibble does, just completely dominates the fight from pretty much from after the 3rd round to basically the end. Bibble dominated Canelo. To sit up there and say that Canelo won 5 rounds in that fight was hilarious. 115 to 112 on all 3 scorecard for a unanimous decision. It should have been more like possibly 117, 117, 118 for, Bibble. But things are about to get shaken up. I just hate to say this, and I'm gonna talk about this later on. PBC might be on this last leg, and that's just basically it. Just like Al Heyman burnt a lot of bridges in the music industry, now it appears that he didn't burn a lot of bridges in boxing. And you have to ask yourself, when do we point the finger at Al Heyman? Listen, I'm as black as anybody, and I love my people, but at the end of the day, people did not understand my intentions, and I made my intentions very clear. I didn't like how the PBC was moving. And of course, at the end of the day, I got called every name you could think of, which was laughable. But hey, I get it. I understand. When we behind the 8 ball, or most of the time, you figure like you got to sit up there and be on cold and stick to your guns. But then sometimes, how do you stick to your guns when the people that you're supposed to be protecting is pointing their guns at you secretly? So there you have it. We'll talk about it later on. Anyway, it's your boy Town. I'm out.